Fam, what is going on? What is going on? Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. The AP Top 25 rankings have been released. Get everybody inside the comment box. I got a question for you for the jump while everybody gets checked in. Do you guys think that Alabama football will be in the playoffs? I know you've had a little bit of time to read your articles, read your sites. From what you've seen, I think even Heather Dinich, which is kind of, people haven't really liked what she said in the past. Almost viewing her as kind of like enemy of the state, but see people like hanging on to what she's saying. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to show the AP rankings in just a second. Please hit the thumbs up on these videos. I really appreciate you guys being here. We're going to look at the AP rankings in just 2 seconds. Alabama, I'll save it for you. Alabama, 13th in the coaches poll and 13th in the AP poll. All right. So I'm going to ask a question inside the comment box. Do you think that Alabama makes the playoffs with a win over Auburn? And I'm saying if they beat Auburn. All right, so that poll has been started inside the comment box. Appreciate you guys being here. If you guys come on morning show, thank you very much as well for the support on the channel. All right, call line is actually not open at this current points in time. So here you go. And this is the AP poll, which is fresh, which is hot, and I get it. The AP poll has nothing to do with the college football playoff rankings, which will be released on Tuesday. I get that. It's interesting to see where the pollsters have the teams, though. So let's go over it real quick while we get everybody checked in. Oregon, right now at the number 1 spot, 11-0 on the season. Number 2, another team from the Big Ten, and you have Ohio State at 10-1. You have Texas at 10-1 on the season as well, beating Kentucky. I just saw that Quinn Ewers will have an MRI following an ankle injury that he sustained against Kentucky. Penn State at 10-1. This team, Penn State, will never be penalized for any type of games that they play. They beat Minnesota by 1 point, and they still remain as a top 4 team. Now, remember, this has nothing to do with the college football playoff rankings. This is just a Sunday AP, just like the coaches poll. You have Notre Dame at 5 after beating Army. And I'm going to live on this. Notre Dame has figured out a loophole to be able to get into the college football top 25, college football playoff rankings. That is to not join a conference, okay? And then you have Georgia, who's number 2 right now in the SEC. By the way, Georgia and Texas, or I would imagine those are the 2 that play for the SEC championship. But, man, I say that, but every single weekend there's these upsets in college football. So Georgia in the SEC championship, that we know. 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 look like this. Still no Alabama. Number 7, Tennessee. Volunteers with 2 losses on the season. You look at Miami, 10-1 after beating Wake Forest. You have SMU at 10-1 on the season. And I'm interested to see what happens with SMU going forward, because looks like SMU has clinched a spot in the ACC championship game. Now, if Miami somehow loses to Syracuse, which I don't think is completely out of the equation, right? Everybody's losing to everybody. I think that potentially, you have a team like Clemson or SMU, so who knows what's going to happen with the ACC. Indiana loses, and they are now 10-1 on the season. And they drop to number 10, right? Down 5 spots after playing their first top 25 team, Ohio State. Boise State, who is tied with Wyoming, is at 11. You have Clemson, who is at 12. I guess you could say they're 3rd in the ACC. And Alabama at 13. And Arizona State, who beat BYU, is at 14, followed by Ole Miss at 15. So that is the AP Top 25 right now. I was curious to see where Alabama would fall. I think a lot of people felt that they might be a little bit lower in the rankings. But the problem with the rankings was that everybody who could lose behind Alabama lost. All right. So, for example, let me just discuss a couple of these things, which is interesting. So, the reason Alabama theoretically still has a shot to make the playoffs is, and I was cooking up with this graphic earlier. If you caught my morning, I was on earlier this morning. I wanted to get on. I knew you guys wanted to vent, but I put together this graphic, which kind of shows you a little bit of insight on the teams vying for that 12 spot. Now, if you look to the right, you see SMU has one loss. And I got to thinking about this. Well, like, who has Alabama lost to compared to the other teams? And as you can see, Ole Miss has 3 losses, 2 of them to unranked teams. BYU has 2 losses, 2 in a row, which I think certainly impacts them. But they are still tied up top for the Big 12 championship, right? Buffs have 3 losses. 2 of those are to unranked teams. Clemson has 2 losses, 1 to number 1 Georgia at the time. South Carolina, they played a gauntlet of a schedule. In fact, South Carolina is one of the hottest teams right now. They lost to number 16 at the time, LSU, Ole Miss, and Bama. Army has 1 loss, which is Notre Dame yesterday. Tulane has 2 losses, which are to Kansas State and to number 15, Oklahoma at the time. And then Arizona State, as you saw last night, beat BYU. They have 2 losses, which are Texas Tech into Cincinnati. So, it has absolutely been a roller coaster of a season. I don't know what it means in terms of, what the playoff chances. I think there's a lot of different scenarios where Alabama theoretically isn't completely eliminated, but let's face it. A lot of what the committee goes off of is, what have you done for me lately? How have you played lately? And if we were to look at Alabama's football season, man, it's been a season of ups and then downs. And we've started to believe in this team, and then the team just completely falls off the rails, right? And I could see if it was a super, super young team, but I think there's enough leadership on this team that they shouldn't be in the spot that they're in. I mean, think about this. I mean, they've lost 3 games this season, right? 3 games. 2 to unranked teams. So it's up to the players, it's up to the coaches, what they want to do for the remainder of this season, how many games they have left or whatever. Alabama opens as I think 11.5 favorite against Auburn. A very dangerous opponent to play for many different reasons. Not only because it's an in-state rivalry game, but and I said this earlier, it takes these guys about 10 games to warm up. I don't know why. This happens all the time. And now you have Auburn taking on Alabama here in Tuscaloosa. Alabama has a lot to play for. A lot to play for. And can Coach Kalen DeBoer keep this team on track to be your in-state rival? Hugh Freeze, look, if you felt that Hugh Freeze was going to run the football, or if you thought he was running the football last year, just wait what he's going to do in this next coming game. Look what Oklahoma did. This is just absolutely, these stats are just mind-blowing to me still this morning, right? 25 from Jackson Arnold. Xavier Robinson ran 18 for 107. And if you look to the numbers, so carbon copy these stats in your mind, okay? I'm going to show you something, all right? So 25 for 131, 18 for 107. And look at the bottom. Look at the bottom of this right here. 50 for 257, okay? 6 rushes right here. 6 rushes, 50 for 257, okay? Stay right here, okay? Now, if we look to last season between Alabama and Auburn, and this is when Nick Saban was the head football coach, and really, let's face it, the defensive coordinator, okay? What I want to show you is I think you could see a similar type game from, actually, what we'll do to get the ESPN Auburn versus Alabama 2023. And this is obviously, this is the 4th and 31 game, right? But what I want to show you is I think it could be very similar game plan to what Oklahoma and what Vanderbilt did, okay? So what I'm about to show you, these are the stats last year against Auburn. You can expect this similar type of game plan from Hugh Freeze. Look at Look at the numbers. They're almost exactly the same. Right here. 42 for 244. 14 for 93, 10 for 85, 15 for 57. What they were able to do last year, that was the most rushing yards that anybody had rushed against Alabama, was by Auburn. 42 for 244. Hugh Freeze, I don't even think, does Oklahoma even have an offensive coordinator? I don't even think, do that. Surely they like elevated somebody. But they basically just ran the same plays that Vanderbilt ran. So I would imagine that Auburn does. And if I'm Auburn's OC, if I'm Hugh Freeze, I'm running the exact same game plan, something similar to what Vandy and what Oklahoma has done. And I'm going to make Alabama try to stop you. They're going to come after Milroe. Last year, Milroe in this game, look at this. 18 for 107. 16 to 24, 259. That was a performance by Milroe last year against Auburn. There's no there's no chance that Ty Simpson is going to come in and play. There's no chance that another quarterback's going to see this is Milroe's team. Okay, period. They've already played 11 games. Crazy to think that they're 8-3. When I think of an 8-3 team, I think like lesser than. I think of a Big Ten lower end team. I just saw playoff rankings come out, or bowl games, and I think CBS has Alabama playing in the Citrus Bowl against Illinois or Iowa. Yikes! So I don't know. I mean, here, if you're just joining, you're like, what's the AP rankings? Here they are real quick from the top to bottom. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Miami, SMU, Indiana, Boise State, Clemson, Bama, Arizona State, and Ole Miss. Wild. It's wild that we're here at this point in time, but here we are. I'm not sure if they'll get things turned around. I would imagine they have so much to play for, considering it's their rival. Favored by 11.5 against Auburn. Auburn just beat Texas A&M in like 6 overtimes or whatever that was. We'll see what happens. But I was if you missed my earlier show, I was on live for like 2 hours this morning, and I just wanted to pop on for about 15 minutes today just to go over the AP Top 25. So as news happens, of course, I always got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Snell's word in with the $5 super chat. Keep on doing the same thing, getting the same result. 100%. And that's the thing with this Alabama football team. Do you really think that things are going to change against Auburn? Do you think there's going to be some sort of different game plan? Let me ask you this. I ask you guys this every single time before the game. Do you think that Jam Miller is going to run the football more or less than 15 times? Less. Do you think that Justice Haynes will get fed? No. It'll be the same thing. It'll be Jalen Milroe versus Auburn. And the two leading wide receivers will be Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard. There you go. And they win. They might win. Do I think they're in the playoffs? They don't deserve to be in the playoffs today. What the crazy thing is, who are you going to put over them? Maybe Clemson? You can't put Ole Miss over them. You can't put BYU. You can't put Texas A&M. If Texas A&M loses again, you can't put them in. You're going to put South Carolina. Well, Alabama beat them head-to-head, and they also have 3 losses. Army, you can't put Army in over Alabama. Tulane, no. So I think, I mean, they have a shot. You know, I was watching Shannon Sharp, his YouTube channel this morning, and he's with Ocho, and Ocho was like, "Yo," he was like, "You know what? Like, and that show is not politically correct at all. They just say whatever. I like it." And Ocho was like, "You know, at the end of the day, Shannon," he was like, "You know what this is about? College football, at the end of the day, is like everything else. It's about money. And if Alabama is on the outside and they're trying to choose these bubble teams, what drives the most TV revenue? And you know what that would be? You know what it would be? And I'm not saying I agree with this, but I understand the point. I understand the thought process. Would be Alabama at the number 12 spot playing Notre Dame on the road in South Bend, Indiana. The TV ratings on that game would probably be between 8 to 12 million. And guess what would happen? Alabama would beat the brakes off of Notre Dame somehow, some way, and then Alabama, being a 5 versus 12, would go on to play, I don't know, probably the Group of 5 champion, which would be Boise State in the New Year's Six. You got to think Alabama somehow wins that game too. So, look, I've seen it before. I thought that Alabama was out of the playoffs. You know, when they lost to Auburn at the back end of the season. What year was that? And somehow they made the playoffs with not even making the SEC championship game. Remember this year? So I wouldn't look. Do they deserve the playoffs today? No. Is there a chance that they still make it as a 12? Yes. Can they beat Auburn? Who the hell knows? Probably, I don't know. But again, I said this probably too many times. I said that Alabama would beat Oklahoma handedly. Thank you. 2007. That was it. 2017, sorry. I thought that they would beat Oklahoma. I believed in this team. I believed that they were rising, peaking at the right time, that they're about to be a buzzsaw. Clearly they weren't. The same type of problems exist. It's a one-person offense. Greg, that's a good point. He's like, can't stop the running game, so how the hell are we going to stop the best back in the nation? Good point. And George, I think George is right. George Dean, what's up? I don't see you post often, but this is a good point. Going to get worse when the portal opens. 100%. Yeah. I mean, if Alabama doesn't make the playoffs, the portal, it'll be crazy. I can't even imagine what kind of handlers and the outside people are talking to the players about right now. I would imagine there's a mass exodus leaving from Alabama. Christian, what's up, man? What's the stat? Yeah, post a stat in. We got a lot of statisticians in here. Sometimes I don't like look up the stats if I'm talking, but somebody else will read it out, and then I'll look it up or I'll talk about it for sure. I'm watching some NFL too. I have this fantasy team that I have. It's a 12-team Superflex league, and it's a dogfight. All right. I'm going to do this right now just for probably like 10 minutes. So I just posted kind of a Ask Me Anything. I'll be completely open with you, 100%. I just asked Ask Me Anything about Alabama football. So it starts right now. Do it for like 10 minutes. So go ahead and post your questions for me inside the comment box, and then I'll answer you guys about anything Alabama football, whatever it is, recruiting, team, whatever. 5 Adam is asking, how good is Keelan Russell? I mean, from the high school highlights that we've seen from playing against elite competition in Texas, I mean, he looks fantastic. One of the things that stands out to me is the fact that he moves around really well inside the pocket with keeping his eyes downfield. That's something that you look at the quarterback position. He's got good height. He's got a really good deep ball. So I think that I'm really excited to see Keelan Russell 100%. It's me, Marvin, asking about recruiting updates. One thing that I would watch in terms of recruiting updates is Ty Haywood flipping from Alabama to Michigan, following Bryce Underwood flipping from LSU to Michigan. I think that is certainly going to be something that we watch for within the next couple weeks or something like that in terms of a flip. I'm also keeping my eye on Michael Carroll. I am not believing anybody or any of these recruits that say I am 100% locked in. I'm not buying it. I don't believe it because it's not over until you physically sign paperwork. And even then, even if you've signed paperwork, I don't believe it until you're actually playing. We saw Julian Saint sign paperwork, go to the bowl game out in the Rose Bowl practice, and then he dipped out in the transfer portal. So I until they're actually playing, they're not 100% locked in. JG asks, what would Alabama's record be with Saban as a coach, you think? That's a damn good question. I think that they probably wouldn't have lost to – they probably lose 2 games. I don't think they lose 3 games right now, but probably lose 2 games. I mean, look, Josh Heupel, say what you want, like he has Tennessee on the right track. If you take your Alabama football hat off and you're just talking about teams that finally found their coach and it took them long enough, Josh Heupel is that guy for Tennessee. Their defense was good. They made better second-half adjustments. That's the thing about Coach Saban. His team made second-half adjustments, at least in the later couple years, maybe overall. But like last year compared to this year, the second-half adjustments are better. So I would probably say they probably have 1 less loss, but I think they'd still lose. That's a damn good question, though. I love those hypotheticals. Chris is asking you to get a new defensive coordinator for next year. No shot. I think Coach Kalen DeBoer in his first year is going to roll with the same exact staff going into next year. 1,000,000%. And he's asking if DeBoer has another year like this year, will he be let go? No. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, we knew that things are not going to be the same as Coach Saban, but unless like the wheels like really fall off and you have like a barely, just above 500, I think that he's going to retain his job. But this isn't the standard, clearly. Roll Tide Probs asks, will Ryan Williams transfer and Milroe come back? I love it. If Ryan Williams, I'm going to be 1,000,000% honest, and I know you're going to hate what I'm about to say. If Ryan Williams was just to go to the transfer portal for 1 hour, I promise you he would get offers between $5 and $15 million, maybe even more. From a business perspective, how could you blame him? What that young man is able to do in terms of body control, his personality, what that guy would do for you in terms of ticket sales, purchases, merchandise. Could Alabama afford to even keep Ryan Williams? I have no idea. But that until there's guardrails, how could you blame the kid if he even went in just for an hour just to hear? Will Jalen Milroe come back? This is a great question as well. I'm going to say no at this point in time, but ask yourself this. Where is Jalen Milroe's draft stock? Right now, he was 3rd before this game in Mel Kiper's big board, right? If he starts, he's trending the opposite way. The second interception, the second interception was 1,000,000% his fault. And then the lack of tackle, the lack of push out, like what's going on? You come back and you have a rebound game against Auburn, but I think he leaves. And if he came back, what happened was the university in Milroe, they have a big $1 million business deal. The university went all in with Jalen Milroe on Lank. They made a documentary about it. So it'd be interesting to see how the university really felt about going all in with Jalen Milroe, because they are business partners now. And he's getting he just signed what was that Cologne deal with $2.3 million. Jalen Milroe is probably making $7 to $10 million right now. Is that going to be more than what he gets in the NFL? I don't know. Tyler Lee saying, what happened to our offensive line? Not enough people talking about that. The offensive line on the right side of the offensive line has been terrible. That is not the standard. There is a huge issue at the right side. And you saw that impact Alabama again last night when the guy hit Jalen. He even hit him in the face. But Pritchett is not an elite talent, not right now. Neither is Welcome Formby. So Alabama does not have a right tackle that is up to par. They don't. Welcome Formby wasn't it. Elijah Pritchett isn't it. I'm sorry. I'm sure those guys are great young men, but in terms of them being high-level tackles that can compete at this level, they are not it. They continue to get beat weekly. It's something we've seen, and it's not going to change against Auburn or whoever they play in the playoffs or in the bowl game. It's been a huge issue. Blake Sims and Milroe, can I compare? I can't really compare Blake Sims and Milroe, but I can compare Jalen Hurts and Milroe. I think that if that'll do it for you, I think because I didn't cover Blake Sims, but I covered Jalen Milroe and Jalen Hurts. The thing about it was like each of these guys in their own way are such great ambassadors for the program. Great ability in terms of their playmaking ability. Jalen Milroe is faster than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Milroe has a stronger arm than Jalen Hurts. I would say Jalen Milroe has a better late game presence in big games than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts probably had a better, I would say he probably had a better ball in terms of kind of the RPO type stuff. But then again, that's a tough comparison. I talked about this earlier this morning. It's hard for me to say because Jalen Milroe became a better quarterback when he went to Oklahoma. But at Bama during his time and Jalen Milroe during his time, I would probably say that Jalen Milroe is a little bit better than Jalen Hurts at Alabama. Tough. That's a good question. It's a tough comparison. Senor, what's up, man? I missed your morning live show living in Germany, but I waited up all night to watch Milroe shit the bed again. Yeah, man, that was it. All right, Christian, thank you, Kyle, for your pointing out the line is giving up way too many sacks. 100%. I mean, the offensive line on the right side is absolutely terrible. Hurts was 26-2. Damn. That's impressive. Hurts also had Coach Saban. Oh, and think about this. Hurts had better weapons, better wide receivers, better offensive line, and the offensive coordinators that Hurts had are better than the last three offensive coordinators. That's one of the biggest things, too. Think about, so when I first got here, it was Brian DeBall, then it was Steve Sarkisian, then it was Mike Locksley. Those three guys, okay? The last three offensive coordinators have been Bill O'Brien, Tommy Rees, and Nick Sheridan. When we look back and we see, I don't know, I doubt this is the complete downfall of Alabama football. But when we start to see things going the opposite way, it was when Bill O'Brien got here, then Tommy Rees, and Nick Sheridan. You haven't had an A-plus offensive coordinator. And I think what contributed to this was the fact that Ryan Grubb didn't come over with Coach Kalen DeBoer. I think that's why people were so excited for Ryan Grubb because they felt that Ryan Grubb was kind of up there with the Lane Kiffins, the Steve Sarkisians, right? Like he was up there in terms of an offensive mind guy. And here comes Nick Sheridan, who was just the tight ends coach at Washington. I know he was the OC at Indiana, but I mean, come on. The 1975X says, what place do you think they'll drop to? I would imagine, they'd probably be like 12 or 13 where they are in the AP and the coaches poll. The thing is, look, I don't think that they should make the playoffs today. But this is the thing. All these teams that had an opportunity to leapfrog Alabama, Ole Miss, they had an opportunity. They lost on the road. BYU, they had an opportunity. They lost on the road. Texas A&M, they had an opportunity. They lost on the road. Colorado, they had an opportunity. They lost right at Arrowhead Stadium. So those are the four teams right there that I mentioned that had the opportunity to leapfrog Alabama and knock Alabama out of the playoffs. All of those teams lost. So you can't really put those teams over Alabama because those teams have lost to unranked opponents as well. So they're going to be like 13, and then it's going to be between like a ACC runner-up in a 3-loss Alabama team should they beat Auburn? M3 Abs is asking, how do you think they hold up against Auburn? Honestly, I'm concerned about Auburn. I am. I'm concerned about Hugh Freeze all the time. I was concerned about Hugh Freeze when Nick Saban was here, because Hugh Freeze, look, aside from the character that guy has, and people can talk about Hugh Freeze and all that stuff, he's kicking ass in recruiting, whether you want to really admit it or not. I'm not with these recruiting sites that's like, oh, we don't need in-state guys and, this doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. I completely disagree. Those guys know every single thing, whatever. You need in-state guys. And right now, Alabama doesn't have anybody from the top 10. In fact, they just lost Turbo Rogers, right? And I get it. Turbo Rogers, when was he going to play here? Why would Turbo Rogers want to be a running back if he was a running back in this offense? Are we going to get 3 carries? Honestly, do you think Justice Haynes is happy? Justice Haynes, I had an opportunity to talk to him. He is probably one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. All of these young men, man, that's the thing about Alabama players. They are good, grounded young men. Tyler Booker, Malachi Moore, Devontae Smith, Justice Haynes. Like, these guys are really good people. Justice Haynes, man, that guy, he has every right to be completely pissed off. That guy should be getting fed. Same thing with Jan Miller. Richard Young is non-existent. But Turbo, when was Turbo going to play here? Was he going to? I think AK Deer is better than him. But I think my point was getting to in-state guys, I think, is important. I think when you look to what Hugh Freeze is going to combine Vanderbilt, he's going to combine Oklahoma, and whatever he has, he's going to put something together, and he's going to make it really difficult to stop for Alabama's defense. That's the truth. Cam is asking, does Ty Simpson start against Auburn? No, 0%. He won't even play against Auburn. And I think that's starting to tell us that Ty Simpson, I don't even think that he could be the answer to this equation. And the equation is, one-dimensional offense, one-dimensional being exactly just Jalen Milroe. Live and die off what Jalen Milroe does. Do you think the players call him Karen? I don't know. Henderson, Law, Prentice, non-existent. Those players are non-existent 100%. Kobe Prentice caught 1 catch, looked pretty good, doesn't play. Manuel Henderson, the ball hit him. I remember the ball hitting him on that punt, doesn't really play. Kendrick Law doesn't play. They don't throw the ball to these guys. So, what do you think about the team's discipline? Hard to say. I think that they're, I think you look to the fact that they're 128th in penalties. That's a sign of a team that's undisciplined. I don't know. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know. It seems like, I don't know. A lot of people are like, it's the ice cream machine and all this stuff at the practice. I don't know if that contributes to where the players are. I know the players have more freedom in terms of creating opportunities for themselves. They're a little bit more open on social media. They do more interviews. But outside a couple of things that I've seen from the team, I don't know if they're indisciplined or not. That's one of the things I just don't know about. AL saying Bama still has a great running back room, but their play calling is trash. Yeah, because they don't feed any of the running backs. What doesn't make sense to me is you run 8 yards with Jan Miller, 8 yards with Jan Miller. This happened yesterday. 2 yards with Jan Miller, and then they just start throwing the football again. 8 yards, 8 plus 8 is 16. You add, 2 more? The average of that is still high for your running backs. Jan Miller, he had 12 carries for 45 yards and 3.8. Lance is saying DeBoer is not above criticism. He's highly compensated. 100%. Rich News and Sports says that he heard Deontay Lawson is done for the season. I haven't heard that. I don't know if that is something that's out there. Usually the people that I look to, like the people who are super connected, are like a Charlie Potter or Tony Tsoukalis or, the Mike Rodax, those type of guys. But I haven't seen anything on Deontay Lawson. If there is something on Deontay Lawson, I'll bring you here. I'll bring it here in terms of a video. But I haven't heard that yet. Rich B's like, if 2 ACC teams get in, I know that's the other thing. Another, like the ACC runner-up getting in over Alabama, and in that scenario, that would be like an SMU, a Clemson, right, over a 3-loss Alabama team. The problem is Alabama lost to 2 teams that were unranked. So, that's where things stand with them. All right, fam. Well, I appreciate you guys being here for my second live of the day. If there's more news, I like this, the ask away. That was fun. That was good. Good feedback. I appreciate you guys being here. Stay tuned for more news as it's related to the Alabama Crimson Tide football team. And we'll see what happens. Like, look. You have one more game that you have to win for a lot of different reasons, okay? Coach Saban said, people remember, if they're going to remember anything about you, it's what you did against Auburn. And then you just let the chips fall where it may. Like, if you're going to make the playoffs, you're going to make the playoffs. If you're not, you're not. Hey, Israel, ask your question, man. I didn't see it. There's a bunch of questions that were rolling in. I'll scroll up and try to find it. Ask it again, Israel. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. I'll give you like two minutes to retype it. Israel will eat it. I'm giving you an opportunity to ask your question before I bounce out, man. Yeah, AP has Alabama at 13. You're right. All right. Okay, Israel, here you go. All right, appreciate you, man. Sorry I missed your question earlier. All right, if Georgia loses and we beat Auburn, do our chances of the playoffs increase? Well, so Georgia plays Georgia Tech. Okay, let's start there. Brent Key, he's punched above his belt this year. I don't think there's any way that Georgia Tech beats Georgia. This season has been crazy. If Alabama beats Auburn, I think it pretty much stays the same. I would imagine that, because Georgia still is going to play for the SEC title game. So the team that you have to, I think, root for to probably win is Vanderbilt beating Tennessee. That's a game that takes place this coming weekend as well. You have to lose. I mean, you kind of have to hope for, let's see. I don't know. I mean, is Indiana going to lose to Purdue? Probably not. Tennessee, are they going to lose to Vanderbilt? Probably not. I don't know what's going to happen with Miami and SMU when they meet. So, yeah. I mean, there's a couple teams that could lose and kind of increase the chances, but I don't know. I think the talk we just all talk on Auburn. No more playoff talk. All right. They are who we thought they were. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining me on my second double dip today. Stay tuned for news as it happens right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I love you, fam. Thanks for being here. Please hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time right here from beautiful Hollywood.